Hello guys and welcome to Unit 2 of our lecture for IT era. So Unit 2 is about the start of computers. So we are going to answer the following essential questions. Number 1, what is the history of computers and what are the components and classifications of computers? The intended learning outcome is the following. Explore the current breakthrough technologies and disruptive innovations that have emerged over the past few years. So how do computers work? Humans interact with other humans through the use of human language, whereas computers interact with humans and other computers through machine language. So human language is the language understandable by humans or people, while machine language is the language understandable by computers. Now, when we try to input commands to the computer, it is converted from a human language to a machine language, which is usually a combination of zeros and one. So when the computer outputs the data back to us, it is outputted in the form of a machine language, which is then converted into a human language. So ones and zeros are called binary language. It is a series of zeros and one. So we have here a table of the equivalent binary. So for example, A is equivalent to 1000001 and small letter A is equivalent to 1100001. We have different types of computer number systems. We have decimal from the root word deci, meaning 10. So it is base 10, meaning it the symbols are based from numbers 0 to 9. We also have binary, which means 2. So for computers, since flip-flop stores either 0 or 1, so it is called base 2 from 0 to 1. We also have octal from the root word octa, meaning 8. It is base 8, which is 0 to 7. And then lastly, we have hexadecimal from the root word hexa or 16. Data is stored in bytes and the base is 16, 0 to 9, and capital A to F. So this is a sample table of the equivalent decimal, binary, octal, and hexadecimal. So how do computers interpret data? From the keyboard, pressure pads are typically found underneath each key. Upon typing a letter, the pressure pad sends information to the CPU. The information is then transmitted in the form of zeros and ones using the ASCII code. For example, we are converting the text scope into binary. Characters is HOPE, ASCII values, okay, and then the binary values, and then the bits. So that is how we type hope from the keyboard, and it is transmitted to the CPU via the use of zeros and one using the ASCII code. The CPU determines what character has been typed and sends the information to the computer again in zeros and one. The monitor displays the information in its equivalent character, this time readable and understandable by humans. Information coding scheme. The combination of zeros and one that represents characters. So these are the following popular coding schemes: ASCII or American Standard Code for Information Interchange, MBC, DIC, Standard Binary Code, the Decimal Interchange Code, and then we have the Unicode or Uniform Code capable of representing world language. So ASCII widely used to represent text based on data for computer processing on many types of computers, traditionally used with PCs. It uses 8 bits to represent a character and can represent 256 characters, and it works in many computers. The ABC DIC is widely used to represent text based on IBM framework computers. used on framework computers and high-end servers, which is 8 bits to represent a character and can represent 256 characters, and it can also work in many computer systems. And lastly, Unicode is widely used to represent text-based data using any written language, including those in different alphabets such as Chinese, Greek, Russian, Korean, etc., etc. So those languages with the different alphabets, they use the Unicode. Use 16 to 32 bits to represent a character, can represent more than 65,000 characters, and works in several computer systems such as Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. How computers communicate with one another. First, the system bus is a pathway composed of cables and connectors used to carry data from the computer's peripheral devices. There are three types of buses: the data, the address, and the control bus. So the system bus architecture consists of the CPU, memory input, and output. Then from here, data is transmitted and it goes back to this tree using the control bus, address bus, and data bus, which comprises the system bus. The data bus can transfer data to and from the memory of the computer or into and out of the CPU. Files transferred from a flash drive to the computer's hard drive and a document sent to the printer for printing are the examples. For the address bus, it is used by the CPU to specify a physical address for instruction. Okay, for instruction, files and other devices within the computer system. For example, in a given computer unit, there are typically 6 to 8 USB ports. The address bus is responsible for checking which of the ports has a printer connected to it, along with the mouse, keyboard, speaker, and sometimes even external drives. Control bus is used by CPUs to communicate with other devices within the computer system, as the address bus carries the location of the data being sent and the data bus carries the actual data being processed. The control bus carries the commands or instructions from the CPU. So take note, address bus carries the location of the data being sent, data bus carries the actual data being processed, and the control bus carries the commands or instructions from the CPU. So this is the control bus. Notice the control bus handles the commands or instructions from the CPU. So the CPU has different parts. So these are the sample from which the control bus interacts with the different parts of our computer. So we see here the interaction between the RAM, input, output devices. So there is also interaction for halt instruction. For example, there is an error in say with a particular document. Okay. The control bus halts the instruction to write data to the flash drive. 32-bit and 64-bit. So when we say 32-bit and 64-bit, we pertain to the number of bits, we pertain to the architecture and software description. 32-bit architecture is based on registers, address or data buses. 32 bits or 4 octets wide. For software, 32-bit typically means using 32-bit linear space address. 64-bit uses 8 octets. So 64 bits means code used with 64-bit virtual memory addresses. Compatibility 32-bit operating systems and applications requiring 32-bit CPUs, whereas 64-bit requires 64-bit OS and CPU. Memory limit 32 bits are limited to 3.2 gigabits of RAM. 32-bit Windows with address limitation do not attain to a full 4 gig. It's hardware dependent, typically 3.25 gig, whereas 64 gig 64-bit systems allow up to 17 billion gigs of RAM. So positives, fewer issues, and widely compatible. 64-bit, more RAM access, more efficient, more virtual memory allocation, more security features. Whereas the cons is less RAM access, less memory, less efficient, fewer security features. For 32-bit, for 64-bit is possible driver compatibility and motherboard RAM limits. How computers connect to other computers. So we can connect using either wireless or wired connection. For network systems, we have four types: personal area network or PAN, local area network or LAN, wide area network or WAN, and metropolitan area network or MAN. For personal area network, seen on the diagram, it is mostly personal devices equipped within a limited area, allowing you to handle interconnections of IT devices at the surrounding of a single user. It includes mobile devices, tablets, and laptops. Can be wirelessly connected to the internet called wireless PAN, personal area networks. Appliances using or used for PAN includes cordless mice, keyboards, and Bluetooth systems. Local area network or LAN, as seen on the diagram, is a private network, so an outside regulatory body never controls it. Operates at a relatively higher speed compared to WAN systems. They are various kinds. There are various kinds of media access control methods like token ring and Ethernet. Okay. Wide area network. So wide area network, the software files will be shared among all users. Therefore, all can access to the latest files. And any organizations can form its global integrated network using WAN, wide area network. MAN, Metropolitan Area Network, covers 1,000 cities in a maximum of 50 kilometers. Used medium is optic fibers or cables, and data rates adequate for distributed computing applications. Methods of communication, wired and wireless. So wired communication consists of USB, Firewire, Ethernet, and HDMI. So for the connectors, we also have gender, the male and female connectors. So take note, the female connector has sort of like a slot or a socket to put or place in your male connector, whereas the male connector has usually pins or insertions that can be placed inside the female connector. The Universal Serial Bus or USB is a connection of interface allowing the computer to communicate with system peripherals. So we have here a sample of USB 2.0 and 3.0. So we also have here the different generation of USB from 1.0 with a speed of 12 MB per second, USB 2.0 with a speed of 480 megabits per second, and USB 3.0 Gen 1 and 3.1 and 3.2 having a speed of 5 gigabits, USB 3.1 and 3.2 Gen 2 having a speed of 10 gigabits, and lastly, USB 3.2 Gen 2 by 2 is 20 gigabits. So USB 3.1 Gen 2 was the start of the introduction of the Type-C USB cable, which is also reversible, meaning there is no particular side that you need to place on the top or on the bottom. Okay, any part will do or will work. Unlike previous generations of USB interface wherein there must be a side that is on top and there must be a part that is on the bottom. Firewire port is a type of connector that can transmit data to and from devices having typically high data rates such as external hard drives. The transfer speed of Firewire is faster than that of a USB. Ethernet cable. An Ethernet cable transmits signals between a computer and a network device such as router, switch, or other computers. High definition multimedia interface or HDMI is a connector for transmitting audio and video data which are compatible to computers, projectors, and televisions. VGA or Video Graphics Array. The 15-pin VGA has been provided on many video cards, monitors, computers, and projectors, slowly being phased out in favor of a faster and more compact HDMI. Serial port, an RS-2320 connection was once a standard feature of a PC used for connections to modem, printers, mouse, and other peripherals. It has been replaced by USB connections. DVI, Digital Visual Interface, introduced in 1999, is the first widely used digital video standard for computers, but also supports analog signals. DisplayPort was introduced in 2008 by VESAR, Video Electronic Standard Association, designed to be an industry standard and replace VGA and DVI. Thunderbolt. All Apple laptops made right now contain supports not only video devices but also several other types of peripherals. In terms of versatility, it's really only second to USB. Take note right now, Thunderbolt is also supported on the most recent versions of USB Type C. So the USB Type C, some of them can also support the Thunderbolt interface. Parallel, similar to serial, it were used before to connect other computer peripherals such as printer, but has since been replaced by USB. PS2 is a 6-pin connector used to connect the mouse and keyboard to a computer, color coded to identify which peripheral will be connected to the port. Purple is for keyboard and green is for the mouse. So this is a sample of an old computer wherein the different ports are displayed. So we have the PS2 port for the keyboard and the mouse, sorry, mouse and keyboard. We also have the serial port, we have the VGA port, and the parallel port. Audio jacks are 3.5 millimeter jacks used for microphones and speakers. Uses color codes as well to indicate the type of input and output lines. So this is the chart for that. We have also here a sound card with the different ports for line in and line out or input and output. Next, wireless communication includes microwave transmission, satellite communication, cellular transmission, and radio transmission such as Wi-Fi. It differs hugely from one another, but the most popular types are Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi, the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, IEEE, a professional technical association with members all across the globe, identify standard 802.11 for Wi-Fi. Uses radio waves to transmit information across a network. Wi-Fi signals are transmitted in frequencies between 2.5 and 5 gigahertz, which are higher than radio and TV signals to avoid interference. Bluetooth, the IEEE identifies standard 802.15 for Bluetooth in wireless standards. Uses radio waves to connect to other devices. The connection via Bluetooth is called pairing. Once paired, devices are able to send and receive information provided they are within a given range, which is typically 10 meters. How humans communicate with computers. First is through computer software, which is a combination of instruction, data, and programs in the computer needed to do a certain task. We also have computer programs, which is also the other term for computer software. Computer software is also a set of codes or instructions, usually designed or written by computer programmers using specific programming language. Most common type of programming language is called object-oriented programming. It includes C Sharp, Sun Microsystems Java, and PHP. Two types of computer software. We have system software, also called an OS. The most important software running on a computer since it manages the computer's memory and instructions and having the ability to control all the connected hardware and installed software. Application software, as most of the day-to-day task is done in front of the computer, involves the use of application programs. As interaction, how do we interact with the operating system? We interact by using either CLI or command line interface, wherein the computer responds based on the commands entered on the text command interface or the command line interface, which we also called as DOS or DOS prompt. We also have the GUI, pictures and buttons through mouse clicks and keyboard and keys. So basically, the GUI is just a shortcut wherein instead of typing the commands, they are automatically inputted based on the clicks or the options that you selected in the GUI. System platforms host the application software installed in the system. We also have the OS. So we have the Windows, Android OS, which is based on Linux. We have Mac OS and iOS. Application software, we have software packages. Simply multiple applications or called modules working together to meet various goals and objectives. We have also online application software introduced with the improved internet speed being made available to consumers. We have freeware, which is copyright software available at no cost for limited use. Shareware, users are encouraged to share the limited version of the software to promote large distribution and sales. We have public domain software, which is any software that has no legal, copyright, or editing restrictions. It's free and open source that can be publicly modified, distributed, or sold without any restrictions. Types of shareware, we have adware, allows the developer to potentially make money from ads in the program, even if users don't purchase the full software. We have demoware, provides a demo or trial of the applications to the user. One of the subset is called crippleware, which keeps the shareware from performing vital functions unless the full version is purchased. We also have donationware, so fully functional and operational shareware application, but a donation is requested to support future development or to support a charitable cause or nonprofit organization. We also have web hosting and web content management. So these are for people who have no background in IT. If they want to create their own blogs and websites using online tools, they do not need to learn programming languages. Wix and WordPress, two of the most popular website creation tools available online, is for blogging, website content management system. How computers impact everyday life for education, enhances teaching materials, internet access serving as reference tools, helps in administrative work and e-learning. For banking, in the form of ATM, check deposit, electronic fund transfer, direct deposit, pay by phone, personal computer, and internet banking. For the workforce industry, they are used to expedite production planning and control systems, supporting chain management and facilitating product design in the industrial sectors. Machines that are fully computer operated are now used, and researchers use computers to gather and analyze data for hypothetical reference, while administrators use them to manage the entire operation of the plant or factory to detect or anticipate explicit errors or deficiencies happening in the process. For e-commerce, we have samples such as Lazada, Shopee, Zalora, Amazon, Airbnb, and the likes. So they are like a market, but they are found online. Okay. So selling or commerce online. Lastly, hospitals, patients' database of health records, treatment records, and medical records used in faster diagnosis of patient illnesses. The tests administered in hospitals such as blood, urine, brain, ultrasound, echocardiography, blood count, mammography, bone density, and others are made possible. So those are the lecture for week 2 of Living in the IT Era. Thank you and good day.